I'm very pleased to present Dan Lucas, who will present our next inductee, Grant Rolley. Dan is from the city of Decatur, where he's a teaching professional. He's the city director of tennis. He is the perfect person to introduce Grant. They both are very emotional people. Between them, there are 3 new hips. And they're fiercely competitive. So at this time, I'd like to bring Dan Lucas.
Until you get your hip replacement. But it's just my luck that I get to follow an actor and a minister. But it's all going to come full circle because Grant is a TV personality. He was a stat man in Jasper. A few preliminary comments. The term culture shock has come up a couple of times. Grant grew up in northern Wisconsin, but here he comes to Alabama. You think, well, that's really a culture shock. Well, the shock was the citizens of Jasper. I mean, good grief. I mean, what do you do with this guy? At any rate, I think most would agree with me that Grant doesn't do many things in what people would consider a conventional way. After all, did you all see the bus outside? Grant rented that bus to bring all his friends over. It's an air-conditioned 50-seat bus. And normally when you play in a tournament, like the booze tournament, you play in the Hoover Championships, or you might play in the Vestavia Championships. Of course, Vestavia took a bold move. They called it the Dixieland Championship. You play in Grant's tournament, it's called the World Tour Championship. Grant's an entrepreneur. 4th of July, he sold fireworks in his pro shop for extra cash. He's an inventor as well. Does everybody have a 2-hop? Grant invented this. If you stand back on your heels, it buzzes. If you get up on your toes, that's the way it's supposed to be. You get a quick start on the ball. I went to Jasper to practice with Grant, ready for a tournament. And he lived on Sherwood, I believe, was the name of the street. And I think I'd driven too far. I called him up. Grant, I think I'm lost. I can't find your house. He said, well, tell me where you are. And I told him. He said, well, just turn around, look to the left, and look for the house with a racket on the roof. Now, some might call that bad sportsmanship, but what a man does with his racket at his own house is all right with me. Now, I could stand up here and tell stories on Grant Rolley during my entire time. I'm not going to do that. I have more important things to talk about, but I will tell you this. They are all true. Every single one of them. With Grant, you don't need to exaggerate. You just tell it like it is. Now, Grant's first venture into organized tennis was anything but conventional. Grant's high school in Wisconsin didn't have a tennis team. But Grant and his buddies wanted to play. They went to the school administrators. We want to have a team. We got a bunch of kids. No, can't have a team. Don't have a faculty member that can do that. Well, that wasn't going to stop Grant. So he and his buddies got together, organized a team. They got the guy on the team with the lowest, deepest, most adult voice. Called the opposing coaches and set up a schedule. So Grant and his buddies went to represent themselves, because they didn't have a school to represent. And I think it's one of the records that he's most proud of. They went 6-0 in that very first season. His senior year, Grant transferred to another high school that really did have a tennis team, and Grant was the Wisconsin high school doubles champion. at a bona fide school at that point in time. From high school, Grant went to the University of Wisconsin in Oshkosh. He showed up at a tennis practice one day unannounced and said, "Hey, I'd kind of like to play on the team." Coach said, "Well, sure, we'll give you a shot." They didn't know who he was. So brings his racket out the next day, and within short order, Grant had a starting spot on the team in singles and the #1 double spot. And for this, his teammates honored him with the nickname Walk On. So Grant was Walk On for the remainder of his college career. After college, Grant went south. I don't think there were a whole lot of good pro positions in northern Wisconsin at that time. And he taught in Florida, and he was a pro at the Bonaventure Country Club in Fort Lauderdale when he got the call about an opening at Musgrove Country Club in Jasper. It's all history from there. In 1988, Grant became the director of tennis at Musgrove Country Club, a position he still holds today, 30 years later. Grant made his first impact on Alabama tennis with his playing skills. And in singles, he compiled a long list of wins, basically a who's who of all the top players around the state. But it's in doubles that Grant really made his mark. And this is a record I don't know if anybody can match. He won 12 state doubles titles, playing with 5 different partners. It would have been 13 if I hadn't lost my serve against Peter Duhan and his partner in the third set, but I'm sorry, Grant, we didn't get that win over Peter. I was lucky enough to be Grant's partner for many of these titles, and in the year 2000, we were named the Alabama Doubles Team of the Year. I've noticed at the awards meeting earlier, they don't give a Team of the Year, Doubles Team of the Year award anymore, so Grant and I are going to amend that to the Alabama Doubles Team of the Century. We're going to have our awards redone. Grant won some state titles with some of Jasper's very best. He won a mixed doubles title with Lynn Mosley. Well, Lynn. And for those that thought maybe he just pulled in ringers for doubles partners, he managed to win 2 with Haig Wright from Jasper as well. So. Grant's accomplishments on the court got him an invitation to play on the senior cup team for Alabama. Now, in 1989, which was his second year in Jasper, he took on the duties of the head tennis coach at Walker High. And footnote here, Walker High is now, I believe, named Jasper High. They changed the name? Yeah. So he's the head tennis coach at Walker High. He still serves as a volunteer coach there today. Now, I have to describe Jasper a little bit. It's a tight-knit community. And if you're a member of the Walker High tennis team, you are welcome to come to Musgrove Country Club to train. And if you're the director of tennis at Musgrove Country Club, you're welcome to be the coach at Walker High because it's all pretty intertwined. Hats off to both programs. That's just the way it is in Jasper. So during his time at Walker High, it took a while, but within short order, I believe it was 8 or 10 years, Grant's teams, both boys and girls, in 1999 won state championships for both the boys and the girls team. Quite an accomplishment for a small community. And over the years, Grant's Walker High teams won 9 state, boys won 9 state titles, and the girls won 2 state titles, and both teams finished second 5 different times. It's quite an accomplishment for a high school coach right there. Now, you can't win championships without developing good tennis players. And during this time, teaching at Musgrove and coaching at Walker High, Grant developed pretty much from the ground up 28 players 28 players that went on to play collegiate tennis, most on scholarship. Another incredible feat for a town the size of Jasper. All of these kids were Jasper natives, and Grant developed them to the collegiate level. Now, while sending that many kids off to play college tennis is quite a feat, it was really the team that Grant was most interested in. He was always recruiting to find that tough competitor to play 5, 6, or 7 singles, or third court doubles. Grant had the ability to take a determined athlete with little or no tennis experience and figure out a way for them to win a tennis match for their high school team. That was a real skill that Grant had. Now, Grant's teaching style, well, I understand it was pretty straightforward and bold, as you might expect. And for some, it took a while to get used to it. One family in Jasper described it this way. Our first encounter with Grant was a real eye-opener. We found him to be very serious with a no-holds-barred style of coaching. It was a little shocking at first. But in the end, it proved to be what was best for us as we went on to win state championships in doubles and singles, along with being offered college scholarships. Something else that helped us along the way was Grant's generosity. During a time when our resources were stretched very thin, Grant offered free lessons, free rackets, and discounts on just about everything. And it was during these times that we realized we no longer saw a hard-nosed coach, but a great humanitarian. We later learned this was not a unique situation. Grant had extended this same generosity to dozens before us and to dozens after us. And I think everyone from Jasper knows exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Grant's generosity. Grant's compassion and zeal for the game is as intense today as it was when he was a player out there in tournaments. But now, instead of winning individual championships as a player, he's winning hearts. He's done so much to help the Jasper faithful and the kids and those at the club. And he truly deserves this honor for taking that part of the state and putting them on the map as a really somewhat of a tennis powerhouse. Way to go, Donnie. Right at the end of my talk, too. That's interesting. I am proud to say that Grant Rolley is a very close friend of mine. And I'm even prouder to introduce him to you as the newest member of the Alabama Tennis Foundation Hall of Fame. Grant Rolley.
Well, I got 4 of these. And we'll see what happens. But if you get bored, you want to have a drink, go right ahead. Thank you, Dan, so much. I guess it's pretty obvious I'm emotional, both on and off the court. People say that I broke rackets and argue with referees, but that, my friends, is fake news. Another reason for the tears is my family. Just give me a minute. My father left when I was 1 and died at age 37. It's a 10-minute speech, but you got to add extra for the tears. So I can, you know. Anyway, I spent 1 week with him at age 14. He said he never saw me play tennis. And then my mom died of pancreatic cancer 9 years ago. She was an unbelievable lady. She saw me play twice. The good news is my sister Robin and her husband are here from the Great White North, Wisconsin. There's another lady named, excuse me, Riri Boudreau, who helped raise me. She will be 90 next month. She gave me my first racket and taught me other sports. One of my former players, Ned Sanders, is filming this so Riri can watch. Ned played his entire senior year with one hand in his pocket. Honest to God. I have a theory that life comes down to a few big moments. Being elected into the Alabama Hall of Fame is obviously one of them, but a much bigger moment when, let's see, where was I? I never graduated either. When I married my wife 12 years ago, for the first time I will admit in public that I married up. I also have 3 stepsons, Clay McCoy, Kurt McCoy, are twins, and Jay Brock. I was able to coach Clay and Jay. They both won individual singles and doubles titles along with multiple team titles. Kurt was a great runner. He finished runner-up, he won the Birmingham Marathon for under 19 years of old. He's running here. He should be here in about 42 minutes. Okay. I also have 2 step grandkids. They call me Papa G. So if you don't think the Lord works in mysterious ways, you can start believing now. Okay. One of the many therapists I have had counseling with once told me there are angels among us. So I said, well, what does an angel look like? The guy goes, well, they're good-looking gentlemen in their 60s and 70s. My wife used to say, why can't you be more like Jeff Gray? You know, I said, Jeff Gray's a damn angel. And so is Donnie Ellis, is an angel. And Marvin Buchanan, where are you, Marvin? Where? Okay, you're a super angel. Okay. Kathy Gray is an angelette. That's Jeff's wife. So I have a lot of respect for you guys. And Jeff has really been a great help to me. I'd like to thank Richard Simmons. No, not that Richard Simmons. I grew up with him in northern Wisconsin. He's a couple years older than me, and we started playing tennis together. And the good thing about that is parents owned a bar. So we always had free beer. But that's how I started playing, and then my high school coach, a guy named Saul Wolf, I only played he screamed and hollered at me every day, and I loved every minute of it. Every minute of it. He was the greatest motivator I've ever seen. And I went on to college. I had some pep in my step, you know. I was eligible academically because I hadn't taken any classes yet. And then, but, you know, our coach never came to practice, and he had 2 dogs, Add-in and Deuce. And he was too worried about them, so I don't even really know. But I played with a guy named Joe Farley, looked just like Charles Manson. We had a So then I went down to Florida. A guy named Bob Sassano gave me a chance, and he had another guy named George Paris, and I was like the 3rd or 4th assistant. I just, you know, I learned a lot, and so I thank those guys for giving me a chance. I didn't really have any experience except, you know, 1 page, a little, you know, resume, and he said, "Are you number 1 in your town?" I said, "Yes." He said, "How many people play?" 2. I said, "No, 3. Then I met a guy named Joe Brandy. He was a great mentor and friend. He's 73. He still comes to Jasper. He ended up coaching Pete Sampras, and his big motto is live in the now. So really, if you think about it, that makes a lot of sense. And then I also had a chance to hit with a guy in Tampa named Mark Kyle. So 1988, I come to Musgrove. I want to thank Nolan Sparks. He brought me here. He was in California tonight. He couldn't make it back. But the Jasper bookies said the over and under was 6 months. And I've been there 30 years. I want to thank Jerry Mosley, my personal physician, and for all he's done for me, and Gary Cowan, my part-time doctor, for keeping an eye out. And let me say something about Gary. I spent 46 days in the hospital in 2002 with the autoimmune thing called neurosarcoidosis. And when I got out, I was kind of in a wheelchair. I really couldn't, you know, get around. And then I'd start hitting, my ball would go this way. And Gary gave me a 10-point lead, and he beat me every time, and he still paid me for the lesson. That's a real friend. And love you, Julie. It's her birthday today. Okay, let's see. Okay, I want to thank Lisa and Aaron and Jonna and Nan, the Wednesday ladies group. All they do is joke around, and I don't know if they've gotten any better or not. The president of Musgrove, Alan Johnson, he does a great job, and you know, a lot of times country clubs, they only really care about golf, and you know, he puts in a good word for tennis, so I really appreciate that. Now, there are several families that represented here tonight that gave me the opportunity to coach their children, and many of them served on the board, tennis committees. It's a rare commodity these days, loyalty, but these people have been very loyal. And so at this time, I would like to thank these people. Hang on a minute, I lost my place. But anyway, Jack and Ann Allen, John and Ren Simmons, Egg Wright and Robin, Jerry and Julie Cowan, Gary and Julie Cowan, Roger and Vicki Hill, Hoyt Elliott and Liva, and Reed and Mike Pilling. All these people have, their parents have taken lessons, and the kids have taken lessons. So that really has been one reason why I've been there so long, because, you know, they kind of stick up for me. And sometimes, you know, when you have these boards that change, they have all these ideas. So, you know, that's pretty special. And Jerry Mosley once said, it doesn't matter where you live, it's where your friends are. So I guess most of my friends are in Jasper. So I hope I made your tennis a little bit better. The second day at Musgrove, some boys asked me to coach the team. I called Riri and I said, what do I do? She said, show them that you care and you can do whatever you want. And that was probably the single most piece of advice that I ever got. So we started off, we practiced in 5:30 in the morning after school, Saturdays and Sundays, and suddenly we were beating Mountain Brook and Vestavia, and I mean, and they didn't really like it, but we loved it. We were crazy. Like 30 years ago, you know, we were supposed to be quiet. Now you go to a college match and everybody's screaming. So we were kind of ahead of our time. A little bit. And so that team, Shannon Johnson was an unbelievable captain and player. He's here tonight, and Dan and Pat Johnson, you know, you guys were great, invited me to your house, you know, and those guys, Chad Hill's here tonight. Some of them couldn't make it, but, you know, I remember, you think I'm crying tonight, when we lost the state, I cried for an hour and a half behind Wendy's eating cheeseburgers. But anyway, somebody asked me, said, why would you do that for $700? I said, well, you can't really put a dollar on love, you know, so I learned how to love some of these guys, and they're great. Okay, hang in. Can't see. 2006, Reed Pilling and Yanni Westerman were juniors. Oliver Wright and Christian Matthews were freshmen. And I thought we had a chance to win the state, but I knew that they didn't really believe that they could. So I asked a friend of mine, John Beck, I said, hey, would you fly us down to Mobile for the state tournament? It'll be worth 2 points. So we did that, and, you know, the school, they got mad, you know. But anyway, we won by 1 point, and those guys are here tonight, Reed and all you guys. Unbelievable, man. I got to tell you one quick story about Reed. He comes out for a lesson. He's about 9 years old, and I'm looking at him, and you know, he's got big feet. His dad's got big feet, so I'm thinking this guy's going to be about 6'3", 175. And why don't we start with the half volley? The other kids don't start with the half volley. And I said, well, you're not the other kids. So anyway, he left, and he was kind of sad, and I gave him a brand new racket. His mother called me the next day and said, Reed slept with his racket, so I had him. But anyway, then there's some other boys, Matt and Judd Allen and Hunter Allen, the Allen boys. They never gave me any trouble. Haig Wright Jr., J. Brock McCoy, Hoyt Elliott, who was the MVP at number 5. He came out of nowhere. That was awesome. And hey, Hoyt, how you doing? I have to thank the people that I played with. First of all, Lynn Mosley, thank you very much. Bougie Franklin, my Musgrove dad. Where you at, Bougie? Okay, stand up. There you go. Rocky Rodder, Roger Hill, Haig Wright, and Mike Wigington. Mike was actually the first guy that I played in the tournament after the brain surgery. We won at 4-0 in Mississippi. We had to go out of state, but we argued the whole time. But Mike, you're fantastic. I also want to thank Jimmy Weinecker. You were awesome. I think we only lost once, and Jimmy lost his serve. But Steve Garman, Jody Brenner, and Charlie Owens was probably the highlight of my career, playing with 2 national tournaments with him. Awesome. And then my old buddy Dan Lucas. First, let me talk about Cindy, a really good coach and a player, and she's been in around the game for years. She's got 2 girls that play. I played Dan twice, lost both. I saw him put a beat down on Ely Bouquet. You guys might remember the guy with that goofy racket. And so I thought, this guy doesn't miss, and you know, I asked him to play some doubles. Dan is very talented, plays guitar. He wrote the hit song, Oh, I Wish I Could Be 5.3. And so I'm going to be recording that, and we're going to try to sell it, and we're going to try to use the money to send somebody to college. So when it comes out, I'll let you know. Through the years, what impresses me, most about Dan and Cindy. They adopted 2 great daughters. That's awesome. Thank you for the nomination. All this would not be possible without the help of the late Charles Eaton, my first sponsor, and in Alcoholics Anonymous. He told me how to get sober, stay sober by taking it one day at a time. He said, you have a disease, break it down in many ways. You are dis-at-ease. You have 3 choices: sober up, get covered up, or locked up. I remember going on my first sober date at 23. I was like, and the girl said, what's wrong with you? I said, I'm dis-at-ease and drugs don't affect me. So, got through that. And I want to thank my best friend, Super Dave. I was in 8th grade. I was about 4'9". Dave was 6'7". I stole the ball and made a layup. He tapped me on the head. He said, "Are you a midget?" I said, "Are you in the circus?" We've been back there. And both his daughters are here tonight. And he came to visit me in rehab. And he took me golfing where they filmed Caddyshack. So can you imagine a drunk out there playing, you know? But, his 2 daughters, Kat and Beck, are here tonight. As a matter of fact, my stepson Clay and Kat are having their first date, and I hope they get married so Dave can pay for the wedding. Okay, and I want to finish up one quick story. So I go into rehab, and I go into my room, and this guy's standing there against the window with the headband on and said, "Do not disturb." He said, "Grant, you're going to get better." I said, "How's it working for you?" "Pretty good." So anyway, the next day I get in the room, and they said, "We have a new patient, whatever. Could you please stand up in front of the room?" And there was a mirror, a big mirror like this, and he said, "Look in that mirror and see what tell me what you see." I couldn't do it. Hang on. Number 3. I couldn't do it. Yeah, but Ed, are you filming this? Just checking. But now today I can. So, and that's hang on. Because all of the thumbs up. Thank you.
One quick fact about Monk Grove Country Club: Brent follows Pat Upton, the former pro. So both pros. Pat Upton was a member of our Hall of Fame for years and was certainly on the Hall of Fame committee. So yes, Gary Gardner was also a member, but Pat was a teaching pro there, and Brent follows Pat. So both the last 2 pros are now in the Hall of Fame. So,